Minister, you addressed the Security Council in the last couple of hours. You said that Russia was turning your country into a shooting range. Tell us the latest reports you have from on the ground in eastern Ukraine.
Situation on the ground is very difficult and tense because we have many shells in many places along the touchline. We have, unfortunately, 2 people killed this night and more than 1,000 wounded. So we can't speak about real sustainable ceasefire. And in this sense, how we began with Debaltseve, which was tragic game changer for everything we agreed in Minsk. And from our side, we are fully committed to Minsk because it's a comprehensive road to peace. But what we need is that others who signed Minsk are also committed to peace.
Now this is a key time because this is the moment when both sides were supposed to pull back their heavy weapons. Is that going to happen?
Well, firstly, we need real ceasefire. We need no shelling to take place on the ground. Of course, we have a plan, and we said from the very beginning we are ready to start the ceasefire, not just ceasefire, but also pulling back the forces as soon as possible. And actually, it was clearly in the Minsk agreement that such pullback of forces should happen 2 days after the ceasefire. There was no ceasefire if there was no pullback in 2 days. It's already complete infringement of Minsk. Now we have to get back to real Minsk by all sides, in the sense of ceasefire, pulling back the forces, and of course, clear monitoring and verification by the OSCE. Otherwise, how can we be sure it's indeed pulling back of all forces?
To be absolutely clear then, for now, you are not pulling back your heavy weapons because of the reasons you've just laid out.
We still have shelling on the ground. It's the critical issue. We are ready for that, but we need to do it in parallel and under clear supervision by the OSCE. And it took us days, not just 1 day, not just 2 days, to get the OSCE monitors to Debaltseve, because the terrorists completely prohibited the OSCE mission to get to Debaltseve. It was a total infringement of everything of the OSCE mandate. And now if you start pulling back the forces and the OSCE monitors are not, led to different places where they have to control the situation, what kind of pullback can we talk about? What we need is a complete commitment on the ground, of course monitored by the OSCE.
You talked about the Minsk agreements, and there have been a number of agreements at Minsk. Each time there is an agreement between the Russians and the international community, the ceasefires seem to be broken. Do we need to forget Minsk and start somewhere else now?
We need to implement Minsk, and we need the international community to keep pressure on Russia to deliver on Minsk. Because Minsk is the only comprehensive package and the only comprehensive road to peace. If Minsk is nowhere, what other options do we have for getting to peace? And the conflict will be spiraling out of control in just moments and moments. It's a complete threat for everyone, not just for Ukraine. Because Donbass is not just about Donbass and even not just about Ukraine. It's about Europe. And Russia has been waging a hybrid war against Ukraine in Donetsk and Lugansk. And what we need is at least to stabilize the situation and to start real political process there.
Obviously here in New York at the United Nations, while you've had a war in Ukraine, there's been a war of words here. And I think one of the problems seems to be that the OSCE is the only body that people can try and get neutral information from. And the OSCE, it seems, find it very hard to do the job they're given because of the resources they've got and because of a lack of cooperation by the warring parties.
Yes, exactly. We've been trying to give the OSCE mission everything we could, but it's not the same approach by the terrorists. And what we need now is to strengthen, to beef up the OSCE mission. And we've been contemplating the idea of putting additional element. It could be UN element, it could be EU element on the ground. And we need to stabilize the touchline in order to eliminate the possible threats for further attacks. It's exactly what we have in mind.
You say possibly an EU element, possibly a UN element. That requires the UN Security Council to authorize it, and you know as well as anyone that the Russians will veto that.
In that case, Russia will be exactly the side to blame upon the development and spiraling situation out of control. But we still have to get the chance to try to put another stabilization element on the ground. And actually, the EU mission could be sent to Ukraine even without Security Council mandate. There is such a possibility within the Lisbon Treaty, but it will be up to the EU to decide whether it's an option or not. But what we need, again, is additional external element to stabilize situation on the ground, because what we have from the side of Donetsk and Lugansk, supported by Russia, is not delivering on anything.
So will you be approaching the EU and the UN asking for those arrangements to be put in place? Are you going to make a formal request to both bodies?
Exactly. It's our idea to ask to start contemplating the possibility, the mandate, the format of such mission or additional UN or EU element to stabilize situation on the ground. And we've been talking both to the UN and to the EU, and my today's visit is a part of this, let's call it, preparatory exercise.
My final question, Minister, and it concerns the events of nearly a year ago. We've seen the international community now focusing, as you would expect them to focus, on the place where people are losing their lives on a daily basis, eastern Ukraine. Yet not many of the statements now from your allies, your colleagues, seem to mention much about Crimea. Do you think the rest of the international community has forgotten Crimea? Is Crimea now Russia's forever?
No, not at all. What Russia is doing now is trying to transform Crimea as a reclusive part of the world where no investments, no real links, no kind of people-to-people contacts are in place. And we have to care about our people, because we believe that the people of Crimea are Ukrainian citizens, and Crimea is just occupied by Russia. And what is going on the ground in the Crimea is completely horrible. The mood has been changing, and at the end of the day, it will be another challenge for the whole international community to handle the Crimea. Now, some of the politicians could tend to forget about Crimea for the sake of sorting out the conflict in Donbass, but it's totally wrong approach.